Hello everyone, I'm Wendell Jones and welcome to this edition of the program Jones and Company. On this program we examine national issues. There are many representatives in the House of Assembly who we have not interviewed on this particular program since the May 2012 general elections, only a few. And one of them who we hadn't interviewed since May 2012 is the Free National Movement Member of Parliament for St. Anne's, Mr. Hubert Chipman. Mr. Chipman has been in the House since then. I believe that he has been involved in politics in the Bahamas for a long time, but just became a member of the House of Assembly in 2012. And it's our pleasure to have him here today. Many people would know him as a chartered accountant, a former managing partner for Ernst & Young, and a good Roman Catholic, isn't that right?
Correct.
Nice to have you here today.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
You have been in the front line of politics now as a member of Parliament for over 2.5 years. Are you enjoying it?
Yes, I am. I look at it actually as a challenge, right? And I accept the challenge. You know, when I got into frontline politics, I really didn't know what to expect at that particular time. And I guess the first set of meetings in the House, I was actually afraid, right? And I guess as the third or fourth meeting, I felt as if I belonged there, right? So that I can make a contribution there, right? So it all fell in place as time went on.
You know, a lot of people look at the cut and thrust of politics and knowing your personality, they wondered whether or not you fitted in.
I've heard that, Mr. Jones. I would tell you, when I was approached by Mr. Ingram at the time, a lot of people said, "You're not a politician. You know, Chip, you're just a good accountant, right? And you are not a rowdy person. You're not a person that is gonna go back and forth with somebody." And then the other person told me, "Oh, you're too short a patient to go into politics," and so forth and so on. But I decided after carefully reviewing it with my family, my wife, my 2 kids, and my mother, I decided to give it a go. And at the particular time, I did not know exactly what area I would be running in. Mr. Ingram told me that he would get back to me on that, and he certainly did.
Many people look at St. Anne's as a kind of easy constituency for a person like yourself. Given the demographics of the constituency, you have the upper middle class in some areas, you have wealthy people there, and they believe that it is a pretty easy constituency when you compare it with some of the inner city constituencies.
Yeah, I'll answer that this way. I will let you know, there are no easy constituency in this country. You have to work, no question about it. Yes, we have wealthy people in St. Anne's. Yes, we have middle class people, and we also have poor people in St. Anne's. Did you realize that? When you look, I don't want to identify the areas, but we have a pocket up there, a huge pocket in St. Anne's that, people are, regular people making minimum wage and so forth. So it's a cross section of people in St. Anne's, I would say, right? Out of the 13 polling divisions, I won 11, right? I lost 7 and 8, that's the same area I'm talking about right now.
Okay.
I believe I gained in 7 and 8 because at the end of the day, in the past, the F&M would get beat by 100, 200 votes. I got beat by 35 votes combined in 7 and 8. So for me, that was a victory.
You have friends across the political divides in the country, and you could have easily been in another political party. Why the F&M?
Well, I go back from the inception of the F&M, Mr. Jones. I guess graduating from St. Augustine's in 1971, and I always had the thing about Cecil Wallace Whitfield. I always liked Cecil, his attitude and his approach to things. And at the time when he gave his speech at the British Colonial Hotel at the time, When he resigned as the Minister of Education, and he said, "Free at last, thank God, I'm free at last." You know, and I think I didn't know what to think at the time, because I think everybody in this country, when you're a black person, was a PLP at that particular time. And he formed the Free PLP at the time, and I decided that I would go around them. As a matter of fact, the FNM was founded basically at Freedom Farm. Did you know that?
Okay.
Freedom Farm in Foxville, owner was Jimmy Shepard, and they would have meetings up at Freedom Farm at that particular time. And so I would go as a youngster. Didn't really know exactly what was going on. You know, I looked at it, and then in 1972, the FNM was formed. I worked in every election from 1972. I worked in Gambia at the time in 1972 for Basil Nichols, who was the FNM standard bearer in 1972 against Clement Maynard. Mr. Maynard won the seat, and then and it goes on, I worked, that was 72, 77. I worked in St. Agnes. In this 82 election, I was in Carmichael with Frank Watson. I worked with Frank Watson in Carmichael and Adelaide. And then I worked with Anthony Roll in Carmichael also when he came along. So at that time, I stayed out in Carmichael Road. And going forward in the 1992 election, I was living in up east, where I presently live now, and I worked in Yamakro at the time. That was the name of the constituency. And then it became Montague.
Yes.
And then it became St. Anne's. So I was in 3 constituencies without having moved.
So you were a stalwart FNM, no question.
I would say
from day one.
I was there from day one,
yes,
as a youngster.
Yes. When you speak to a whole lot of people, they are sometimes disappointed in the political process in the country. There are some people who express disappointment in the level of debate in the parliament, and the inability of successive governments to bring about the kind of transformation that they would want in our social and economic circumstances in the country.
One of the things, Mr. Jones, I find with the present government and being a member of parliament, and I always thought that government should be continuous. But when you really look at it, it's not continuous. Every 5 years or 10 years when there's a change of government, there's a whole new stuff that starts from ground up again. So you never really achieve some of the things that you should have achieved. So the point I'm trying to make is not a plan. You don't have a 20-year plan, or you don't have a 40-year plan, or let's say we don't have a 10-year plan. So I believe that's one of the things that any government should take a look at in terms of planning and successive government going forward. And then I think people will then have a better appreciation for where the country is going to go. We don't know from day to day what's going to happen with the country, because yes, the level of debates and stuff like that could be more. And I will tell you one of the things, and you know, this tit for tat stuff, I really don't like, right? What you constantly hear in the House of Assembly, well, you did it. I did it. You did it. We're not getting anywhere like that, Mr. Jones, right? Sometime we would get notice about a debate. The day before, what are we going to be discussing? Well, it was tabled. You should have been ready, all right? You can't debate something that you're not ready for, all right? You take, for instance, the budget. You look at the budget is very, very big. They pass it out to you. They had an opportunity to peruse this stuff, go through it, discuss it at the cabinet level. And then they come to you and they tell you, all right, we're going to start the debate on the budget next week. That's totally, totally unfair.
Yes.
As a chartered accountant, right, and I believe I have the upper hand on a lot of people when it comes to the budget, but even that, right, I will tell you, is not sufficient time in order to do justice, question. And then to top it off, when you get to the budget debate and you start to ask questions, you are ignored. I'm not going to answer that question. Oh, I'll check back, I'll get back to you. That's not fair to the Bahamian people. You run a ministry. You are there to answer to the Bahamian people.
So in terms of system and style of doing things in our parliamentary system, you believe that we should have some major changes, eh?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, to be honest with you, I was taken aback when I first got in there, particularly at the House of Assembly. The place is antiquated, right? Everything needs to change in the House. So we need a new parliament, to be honest with you, right? You go to a government ministry, it's not automated. Most of the time, most of the things are handwritten. You go to road traffic, people are still writing your license this up on by hand. This is 2014, Mr. Jones. We got to do better.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about whether it's the F&M or whether it's the PLP or whoever, we have to reach a point where we can manage. You can't manage without information. In order to manage, you need information. And you don't need information from last year. You need it now. All right? So, and we're far from that.
Why is it taking so long, in your opinion, to bring about the kind of reform that we should have, or to transform the government, or to re-engineer it? Why is it taking so long, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I will tell you, we don't have, I would say, what we call business people. I think we look at things totally different from lawyers and doctors and so forth, right? It's very few business persons in the House of Assembly. Our approach might be certainly different from what is being displayed now. Coming out of the private sector and coming into the public sector, it's a far, far cry, Mr. Jones. I will tell you, coming out of a firm like Ernst & Young, you talking about fully automated, you talking about I can get information in real time in some instances. But you can't get information at all. You know, you request information, it takes forever. You take, for instance, the House of Assembly. They're still on cassette tape. The hand side is cassette tape. So if you request something from the hand side, right, it could take you 2 weeks. It could take you, they have to really get in and work on it in order for you to get the information you need. So when you say, well, let's check the hand side, it's not forthcoming. It's going to be probably another meeting before you get to the hand side. It's not going to say, okay, well, let's roll it back and get this information. It don't work like that.
Do you see any effort being made to bring about the changes that would be necessary for a parliamentarian to function effectively in a 21st century Bahamas?
I don't see the change being made. I honestly don't see the change. I know I sat on a committee with Dr. Nottage, myself, Minister Mitchell, Nico Grant, and Theo Neely, and just looking at this. I think you know all about this, where the salary became the issue rather than what the real problems were. And I also had the opportunity to travel to Turks and Caicos, the opening of their parliament. And Turks and Caicos, if you go to their parliament and you look at our parliament, it's a big difference, right?
What is the difference?
Hey, they got conference rooms and stuff like that, right? They got offices for various members of parliaments and stuff like that. Not every member of parliament, but they have offices, right? You have a conference room in Cayman Islands, probably can seat about 25, 30 people, right? You don't even have a smokers room that could sit 10 people in the House of Assembly. The committee rooms are very tiny in the House of Assembly. So we're a long way off. I've heard my colleagues talk about, Nico Grant in particular, talk about his visit to Canada. And I know we're not on the level of a Canada. Canada is a first world country. We're still a third world country. But I certainly believe that we can do a hell of a lot more than we're doing.
But I don't see the government or politicians putting a priority on making things better. We've heard of plans for a new parliament building for decades now, for at least 20 years.
That's correct.
And I don't think we are any closer to it, are we?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think, we have had a presentation by the architect, Michael Foster, of what existed, and I think what we're talking about now 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be right here on the site of the old Victoria Hotel. That's really where the parliament was supposed to be. And it's a nice drawing. I mean, the rendition was very nice, right? However, I think coming forward 20 years later, I think that even needs to be adjusted, right? So do we have the money to do that? That's the next question, right? numbers were kicked around, not hard and fast on the numbers. I heard $50 million, right, in terms of a new parliament, what it will cost, all right? Do we have $50 million? No, we don't. We probably don't, all right? So to answer your question is, do I see a parliament in the near future? The answer is no.
And it's not a priority, it seems. Because other things...
There's so many priorities in this country
yes.
at this particular time.
Yes. There are other things that seem to take priority over a decent parliament building. I mean, the representatives of the House, you go to see them, there are no offices there for you to see them. Sometimes you have to borrow the Speaker's office and all the rest of it. That is pretty disgraceful for a supposedly sophisticated country. Eh?
It goes further than that. Most of the time you meet them outside, standing in the square. That's when you really talk to them, because there's no place in Parliament for you to even have a decent meeting. For myself, right, I've always been an early riser, and I sell time all my life, so I am on time. I'm never late for anything, right? So I get to the House Assembly at 7:30. That's when the doors open. So sometimes I have meetings at 8 o'clock with some of my people. They will come down and see me and so forth. But of course, I go to my office, which is located on Johnson Road, and that's open 5 days a week. And I go to my office practically every day, but I spend about 4 or 5 hours on a Thursday, every Thursday, Mr. Jones. So I meet my people. So, but if there's an emergency, they can reach me, and I do answer my phone.
You enjoy this? You enjoy being a parliamentarian, a legislator?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I say that with a straight face. Yes, I do. I've always been a person of service. I've always been giving as far as the Catholic Church is concerned. I've worked in practically every facet of the Catholic Church, whether it was from the advisory to the bishop, whether it was the audit committee, whether it was marriage and family, parish committee chair, usher. So I've always been somebody who was willing to give back, right? And what I see about politics, that's all it is about service to the public. If you want to be a true politician, it's about service and giving back.
And so you're in this for the long haul, eh?
Well, Mr. Jones, I'm going to be, and I said this to you last week, I mean, when you called me, I'm going to be 61 next Wednesday.
Well, congratulations.
Right? And elections are due in 2017. Yes, of course, I would love to go back for another term. But that's not up to me, Mr. Jones. That's up to the party, all right? But I would like to do another term, so I would have given 10 years, whether it's opposition or government, to my people.
Brings us to the point. What is the state of the Free National Movement? In terms of the leadership of the party and the preparedness of the party to win the government and to govern?
Well, Mr. Jones, there's been a lot of talk out there, and and I think, in all fairness to the leader has done his best thus far under the circumstances. There's a lot of things written about the leader. There is things we hear in public that, the leader and the deputy leader don't get along. I don't see that, right? I think there is a difference of opinion from time to time, right? We talk amongst ourselves. We have parliamentary meetings. Things are discussed. Are we getting ready for an election? The first thing we're doing right now, we haven't had a convention. Our Constitution say every year we should have a convention. It's been over 2 years now since we had a convention. Our convention now is slated for November 21st. At that time, all offices of the parties will be open, and you're free to run. I believe once we come out of convention, we will be a much stronger party going forward, and I think everybody will galvanize around whoever that leader may be. So I'm looking forward to November 21st.
Has the party gained any ground since 2012?
That's difficult to measure, Mr. Jones, but from where I sit, I don't see us losing any. I don't think we lost any ground. All right. I've heard the DNA said how many members they're picking up. They're now up to 30,000 members. You know, I don't know whether they PLPs they picked up or F&Ms. I couldn't tell you. All right. But I think, for sure, I don't think we've lost any ground. I think we could have been in a better position.
What has caused you not to be in a better position in the Free National Movement today?
I guess.
Is it the infighting in the party?
I wouldn't say infighting. You know, we have had discussions. There have been council meetings where we put things out, we air things. The Free National Movement has always been a free, and it says free. You're free to speak. You're free to say what you want to say, right? And you're not castigated or pushed aside because this is what you believe in and stuff like that. Unlike other people where you say, oh, you shouldn't say this and stuff. You have that right to say this is a democracy. So, yes, you're going to have people say, oh, the F&M are fighting amongst themselves. Me personally, I don't see the fight.
Well, you know, you had a big bust up in 1977 and even one after that, but as you now see the party, is the party sufficiently united? You used to have as a motto of sorts or a slogan, all together. The party is not all together now. Is that
slogan?
Right?
The slogan has changed over the years,
yes.
Mr. Jones. As you know, in the last election, it was "We deliver."
Right.
All right. So it changed from time to time.
Yes.
I think in the Abaco election, the slogan came back: "All together." Right. I can assure you this: coming out of convention, we will be all together.
Okay. Let's take this break on the program. This is Jones and Company, and we have as a guest on the program today Mr. Hubert Chipman, the Member of Parliament for St. Anne's. We'll come right back.